Now, many of us know how hard it can be to balance caring for a parent while looking after ourselves and our family. Our Dilly found herself in exactly that position when she was diagnosed with cancer and had to make the really tough decision to move her mother into a care home.
People say, don't they, carers forget to care for themselves. And I did forget to care for myself. I just couldn't cope. Making that decision was the hardest decision I think I've ever had to make. You just feel like you're letting them down. You feel like you think, oh, I'm just shoving them into this place. What it made me realise is that, oh my God, why didn't I do this 20 years ago? It has completely transformed our lives as a family and transformed hers. So I was adopted from an orphanage in Sri Lanka, aged 3. My parents couldn't have children and tried for years, and that's why they decided to go back to Sri Lanka, because that was where my dad was from. And my mum and dad had actually met in England. When Mum had her first breakdown, I was 11 years old, and unfortunately her mental health declined, and it got so bad that she ended up having a breakdown. She was unfortunately then in and out of psychiatric care for the next 10, 11 years. She was sectioned 10 times, I think, throughout my life. It wasn't until later on in life that they realised she was bipolar. I saw my dad suffering because he didn't know what to do with me, he didn't know what to do with himself. You know, the house was in disarray, which is why, you know, I did what I do. You know, I tidied, I cleaned, you know, I had to look after my dad, and I was 11 years old. In 2005, my dad started getting ill, and unfortunately he stopped working, and when he stopped working, his mind stopped working, and then he just declined, and then the dementia kicked in, and then the Alzheimer's kicked in, and my mum couldn't care for him because she was unwell herself, so she had no choice but to put him into a care home. And it was quite sad really to see him like that. Unfortunately, he passed away in 2010. When my dad died, the house just got horrendous. And I went to visit her, and the house was in such a state. And I remember coming back to my husband and saying, she just can't live like this. We need to do something. I mean, it was a no-brainer. Look at what she did for me. You know, if I could return the favour and look after her when she became ill, then that was my lifelong mission. We were a young family. We just had a baby. She lived with us in our house for 7 years, until we built a granny annex at the bottom of the garden that she could live in, so that we could keep an eye on her and that I could care for her. But still, you know, my mum needed care, and she had to have carers coming in 4 or 5 times a day. So it was still quite tough, and then I became ill. I got diagnosed with cancer of my womb. I was really unwell, and I just couldn't cope. You know, it was affecting my family, and it just was too much. And I just had to say to my mum, you know, it's really hard trying to look after you and trying to look after myself. So I think we're going to have to think about putting you into a care home. Even though there is such guilt and such stigma about putting your parents into a care home, it honestly can be the best thing for them. You know, it has been life-changing for me and for my family and for my mum. What I love most when I come here, something that we can both do together, is play bingo.
All for twos, 22.
Obviously, it's great for their minds. My mum loves it because they all get a little treat at the end of it, so it makes it worthwhile.
Bingo!
There you go, there you go. I think the most important thing is that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to have help. You know, one person can't carry everything. You know, I was trying to carry it all. If I was to think about my relationship with my mum and how it's evolved over the years, I just look at her now and think, oh my gosh, you taught me all the best things in life. You know, you gave me the best grounding, the best start. My relationship with my mother has completely changed. It used to be functional, but now it's completely different in the best possible way. And I feel like now we're back to being a mother and a daughter. And I love that.
Gosh, that was emotional. Dilly joins me now. Are you okay after watching that? It was amazing, actually. You have done your mum proud.
Thank you.
You really have. And I know how difficult that decision was.
Yeah.
to do that. But it's worked out for you and the family, but also for her.
Honestly, it is the best decision I ever made. And like I said, I was just too unwell myself to care for her, and I couldn't take it all on. And I think the thing with carers is you don't realise how much you're carrying on your shoulders all the time. It's not just the physical doing, because so many people care for their family and friends in so many different ways, the physical act of caring, but it's the emotional toll it takes on you. And I'd been doing that since I was 11, physically and emotionally, carrying that weight of my mum being in and out of psychiatric units, being very unwell until into my 20s, into my 30s. And it just, when I became ill, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I have to sort of, like they say, when you're on a plane, you know, you have to get your oxygen mask first, don't you?
Yes.
Before you save others. And I think that was so important for me. I was so unwell, I was so poorly, and I just, for me and my family, we just couldn't do it anymore. But what I thought was going to be, which was such a painful, awful time for me to think, oh my gosh, you know, that horrible feeling of, oh my gosh, you know, I need to tell my mum, how am I going to do this? You know, I had to go in there. And, you know, I remember when I went in and sat with her in the bottom of the garden, in the granny annex, at the time I had feeding tubes hanging out of my arms. I was so unwell, and she could see me. I was, you know, 5.5 stone. I was so unwell. I said, look, Mum, I'm going to need you to go into respite for a couple of weeks. And just because I can't look after you anymore, I said, you know, it's just too much. And she could see me. She was like, I understand. She's like, of course, whatever. Because, you know, your mum wants to look after you as well.
Of course.
No matter how ill she is, I'm still her daughter. She could see I needed help. And so she went. And actually, I remember within 5 days of her being in there, I said, are you okay? Are you happy? She said, I am so happy. I've never been happier.
Wow.
And actually, it was just transformational for me. I was like, oh my gosh, this weight off my shoulders.
And also the guilt. You shouldn't feel that.
But you
of
do.
Course you do.
Of course.
Because carers never put themselves first.
No, they don't.
Ever.
And they never do. And I think we have to look after our loved ones forever. And actually, you know, we dismiss our own feelings. We dismiss how we are. And actually
sometimes
the effect.
You can't.
Yeah.
It's just not possible. And the thing is, what you've shown is something very hopeful and actually something very positive.
Yeah, and
which is that going into a care home does not mean that in some ways you are abandoning the people that you love.
Absolutely not.
I mean, her life has been enhanced.
Yeah.
And it was something that really struck me about that, Dilly, what you said was your mother and daughter again.
Yes, yeah.
Rather than you're the carer with all of the stress and the worry and the anxiety that comes with that.
We had a very functional relationship, and I've always been very open about our relationship. And my whole life, I've always said, my mum and I have a very functional relationship from the age I was, you know, very young up until recently. And it's only recently, since she's gone into the home, that we now have a mother-daughter relationship. You know, I went there yesterday, I went and saw her, I make her a cup of tea, I tell her about my week. Before it used to be, what do you need? what can I clean?
Right,
what can I do?
very sort
you know,
of,
it's everything like, you know, okay,
as you
does she
said,
need
functional.
this? Does she need that? It was all very, you know, matter-of-fact stuff. It wasn't like the lovey-dovey emotional relationship. Because I never had that with her, because I was caring for her and looking after her and looking out for her. Right. But now someone else is doing that, and I couldn't be more grateful for them.
Oh, it is fantastic. Dr Amir is with us. And Amir, I think the thing with this is you do have to sort things out. You know, it's a very difficult decision. Dilly's been very open about that. But do it before the crisis point. You know, I think that's important, isn't it?
It really is. And putting someone in a care home, someone you love so much, is such a heart-wrenching decision. And it's not about not caring for them, it's about caring for them and recognising your limits and what you can do for them and what's in the best interest for both them and for you. There's lots of different reasons why people do have to put their loved ones in a care home. It could be for safety reasons, if they're wandering or if they're falling or if they've not taken their medication properly, or if they've got complex medical needs that exceeds your ability to care for them, or if it's having a detrimental effect on the carer's health as well. And sometimes, and I think Dilly's highlighted this, sometimes when people are at home and being cared for, it can be quite isolating for them. So going into a care home and having other people there around all the time, playing those games, having those activities is actually a really positive thing for their health as well. So that was such a powerful video, Dilly. Honestly, I was very emotional watching that.
I know you were as well. We absolutely all were.
Yeah.
But it's having the conversation, talking about it and looking at your options. As well, you know, making sure that you know, because it's a different world, isn't it? You have to know what options you have to make sure you get the best possible care for the people you love.
Yeah.
That's right. There's different care homes out there depending on the medical needs. It could be a care home, it could be a nursing home. You've got to consider the financial costs as well. That's the reality of these things. If you have savings or assets of £23,250 or above, you'll be expected to pay for your own care. If it's below that, you'll be assessed by the local health authority and they'll do a financial assessment and see how much they can contribute to it. Your house might be considered. There are some rules around that. If your spouse is still living there, then the house is protected. If you've got complex health needs that require medical or nursing care, you could apply for NHS continuing healthcare. That's a very complicated process. And a lot of the forms for all of these things are very, very complex. And a good place to start is the social prescriber at your GP surgery. If you make an appointment with them and take the forms with you, they can help you fill out those forms.
Yeah, that can feel really, really overwhelming, can't it? But it is about, you've got to take, in order to take care of other people, you've got to take care of yourself. I'm just so glad that it worked out for you, Dilly, because I know how tough it's been. I know it's been an emotional roller coaster, but she's happier.
She's so happy.
She's happy, that's the main thing, and you as well, your family are thriving too.
Yes, exactly
which
that.
is lovely.
Yeah.
It's lovely. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
For doing that. It'll have helped so many people, Dilly. Well, that's a wrap for this video. We hope you enjoyed it. We have all the best moments from the show right here on the channel, and if you like this video, then we think you'll love this one. See you next time.